Howdy, y'all. The following is a clip from Objectively Subjective's channel where we do a show called On Our Last Nerve. Catch it every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time, and make sure you subscribe to Objectively Subjective and also the panelists #Heathen and Faithless Southerner. I hope you enjoy. Don't you laugh at me. How do we deal with facing that some of the people we once admired for art, music, movies, or YouTube comments or content are morally inept? The answer is very carefully and with a lot of thought. In our culture, we tend to glorify folks that gain popularity, despite whether or not it's reasonable to do so. For example, movies I've watched in the past that really gave me a sense of gratitude for the work of Kevin Spacey kind of conflicted with the discovery of the allegations that the actor forced himself on a teenager. Really can't watch American Beauty now because all I feel is disgust for obvious reasons if you've seen American Beauty. Anyway, the questions are, how do I reconcile the admiration felt with the now felony charges being issued on Kevin Spacey? For me personally, when it comes to these kinds of questions, I have to think for a while and gather information on a case-by-case basis. Now, recently, I came to this crossroads upon the discovery of Sargon saying he wouldn't even rape an MP UK official. Now, why did this matter? Because I knew friends of his. Now, I'm not going to mention any names, and I cannot look the other way when it comes to this issue. This is a serious one, nor can I overlook him saying that he doesn't give a shit about the Holocaust. Okay, so the boundaries have clearly been crossed when someone is capable of allowing their bias of being friendly with such an apparent person to sway the reasoning of the continued choice of apologizing for and offering support by giving him a platform. Point being, I'm not going to support nor give any platform to anyone that's okay with this. That's my choice, and it's my choice to use my voice. So,
and yeah, so I mean, that's a big question when it comes to a lot of things. At least your first part. How much do we recognize of someone that ends up, we find out that they do awful things? And for me, we can still recognize the achievements, but we don't need to glorify that person anymore. Like, for example, I have on my bookshelf back here, Universe from Nothing. But it turns out that Lawrence Krauss is kind of a shitty person. So while I still think of that book as, wow, this was a great and easy read for learning about the universe and the origins of the universe and what science means when it talks about nothing in the singularity, at the same time, I wouldn't have Lawrence Krauss on my channel.
no.
Because I know that that is not the message that I want to put out, that I'm okay with the things that he's been accused of doing.
That, and I mean, you are responsible for the people in your audience. You're responsible for their safety in your space. So if you invite people like that on, what kind of message does that send to victims of sexual assault? Like, I wouldn't go to that chat.
Well, and we've all talked about Sam Harris as well. Free Will is still a book that I think of as an awesome book. I absolutely loved it. I know that Evans has talked about his meditation app. But at the same time, pretty much all of us could agree that Sam Harris has done some very questionable things that we wouldn't want to associate ourselves with.
I think that it's easier to say that whenever we're talking about people like Sam Harris and Lawrence Krauss that have a professional sphere, because like you can certainly appreciate like what Francis Collins did on all of his various scientific endeavors, but then think that his, 3 frozen waterfalls is total bullshit. Like, and it's the same thing whenever we get to these things. What really kicks me in the teeth is whenever we're talking about people who are entertainers, right? Whenever you're talking about actors like, Kevin Spacey, and whenever you're talking about producers like Brett, the Weinstein, and then you're talking about people like Sargon. Like I can enjoy somebody's professional work because I realize that there is a delineation between what they do for a living and like what they do personal. Those things I can partition that off. But as soon as I learned that an actor's done something just terrible, like for me, your art's blended in with your character, right. And so if for me, like entertainers, it's a lot harder to separate, to make that clean cut and go, look, Lawrence Krauss did some things that are very questionable, but his books are still good and I still have value from them, versus somebody like all of the various actors and things like that. And then YouTube celebrities, where it's just like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to support their art.
Yeah, indeed. And see, the thing about it is with these entertainers, you can kind of see it in their entertainment, in their music. Like with R. Kelly, he did the song with Aaliyah, Age Ain't Number. I mean, come on. That looking back at that, knowing what we know now, it's disgusting. And it does show through some of their art. So sometimes I'd say it's a case by case basis. With R. Kelly, I can't separate that shit. I can't enjoy any R. Kelly music now. That's just my personal feelings about it, because I can see it and hear what he's actually got going on behind the scenes is actually being portrayed in the songs.
Yep.
In American Beauty as well. So, yeah.
So Casey, what do you think on this?
Well, I think Snarky's right. It is subjective for every single person. And especially when you're talking about YouTubers, because typically that's all you know of YouTubers are their videos that they produce. So typically when something comes out that isn't favorable to them, that's in their content. That is part of who the person is that on your screen every week, or how often they produce. So it's harder for me to separate a YouTuber from something they do or say.
Yeah. Same for me. It's like when Sargon is invited on a channel, I can't reconcile that. So I can't reconcile people saying, well, he's really a good guy. I can't reconcile those apologies.
So something, I mean, to take it away from Sargon for a second,
please, right?
So there's one person that I always think of when we talk about this stuff, and that is Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Now, throughout the vast majority of the 90s and 2000s, throughout his even after his death, like, people basically knew that shit happened at Neverland Ranch, but you still saw Michael Jackson songs all throughout advertisements and in movies. And then the documentary came out. So, like, at what point do we say, now I can't support this person? Because even though we didn't know, we knew.
Yeah, I'd say that, the turning point really has been, I'm going to give credit to the Me Too movement, because there are things that were acceptable like 10 years ago that aren't now, because people are speaking out and saying, hey, we don't like this behavior. It's harmful. It makes us feel unsafe, and it causes actual damage. So I think times are changing in this regard. And I also think that a lot of people are having difficulty rolling with that change. But I mean, that's a constant, is adaptation in one's life. So like, and then on the second part, okay, so we've talked about professionals, we've talked about entertainers, but this also goes down to a local level with friends. Yes.
At what point do you look at your friend and say, this person is awful, like, they are doing so much damage, I have to separate myself?
Right.
Because there's a lot of people out there that are going to say, "Oh, you never turn your backs on friends."
Or do.
I
I
don't
mean,
think
at what point does it become, "Oh, you're a friend of someone and you're an enabler of someone"?
look, there's boundaries. There's boundaries. You have personal boundaries that you are entitled to as a human being. You don't have to be friends with everybody. And if somebody crosses your personal boundary, then it is your right. And according to some issues, your duty to society to say, no, I will not support and apologize for and overlook a lot of the harmful, atrocious things that these people are saying and doing, that they're inciting other people to do, especially hate and the rape comments. Sargon, come on. There's no way to frame this to where it looks good. There's no way. Stop it.
Well,
nobody's buying it.
It goes to what was like Snarky and I watched Kevin Logan and Christy Winters and Steve Shives talk about this earlier today. Sargon says, "I wouldn't even rape you," insinuating that this person is unattractive, and that's one of the reasons why he wouldn't do that.
It's always about the looks.
So where's the line? Like, who would you do this to?
Yeah,
it opens that up. It's disgusting.
Yeah, that's the more that's the the underlying, the worst implication behind the phrase, the saying, "I wouldn't even rape you," is that there are people that you would rape.
Right.
Exactly.
You're basically you're coming out whenever you say something like that. You're saying that, oh yeah, they're definitely people, not you, because you find you attractive enough, but hey, that girl over there, yeah, sure, I'd rape her. Like,
yeah, it's disgusting.
At no point in time is that an acceptable thing to say. Like, you don't get around that one.
Well, and there's another thing is when he produced a video recently where he said there's not enough beer in the world to make me do that. And it's like, so what's the level of beer for you to do that to someone you find attractive?
Oh my God.
Like that's the implication that you come from with that.
Special thank you to all my lovely patrons. I so appreciate your support. Also, make sure you like, share, and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can get notifications.